They told us the new generation of marine diesels would run forever, clean, efficient, almost silent machines. They are lying to you. Captains are quietly scrapping engines after barely 10 years, while old monsters like Perkins 41108 are still pounding out 20,000 hours. Stripped of iron and ruled by sensors, modern engines are built to meet emissions laws, not to outlast an ocean. Is regulatory obsolescence turning your next upgrade into a future shipwreck? The answer starts with what the old engines did right before technology rewrote the rules. A marine diesel from the golden age is a lesson in overbuild. Pull the valve cover off a Perkins 4.108 or a Ford Lehman, and the first thing you notice is the sheer mass of cast iron everywhere. Cylinder walls are thick enough to take a beating from a thrown rod and still get honed for another decade of service. Main bearing saddles look like they belong in a locomotive. The block itself weighs more than some modern engines fully dressed. This is not nostalgia, it is physics you can measure with a micrometer. These engines were designed to run cool and slow. Displacement was generous, with long strokes and conservative bore ratios. That meant pistons moved at a relaxed pace, never pushed to the edge. The head bolts are oversized, the cooling passages wide, and the oil galleries look like they were bored out for a much bigger machine. Every surface is built to resist corrosion, every gasket easy to replace with tools you can find in any harbor. Horsepower numbers were modest, often less than 50 horsepower from a block that could easily handle twice the output if asked. The result? Internal stresses stayed low, and fatigue cracks were rare. These engines did not demand perfect fuel or constant monitoring. They tolerated bad diesel, dirty oil, and a missed maintenance interval without complaint. A mechanic could rebuild one of these blocks on a dock with a socket set and a few days' patience. No proprietary parts, no plastic covers hiding sensors. The iron told you what it needed. This physical abundance, the extra metal, the loose tolerances, the slow-moving internals, was not just old-fashioned. It was the foundation of a machine that could outlive the boat it powered. Before regulations changed everything, this was the standard. Build it heavy, build it simple, and let it run forever. 20,000 hours. That number sits at the top of every marine surveyor's checklist and haunts every engine room. In the commercial world, it is not a fantasy, it is the yardstick. A diesel that hits 20,000 hours without a major failure is not a legend. It is just doing its job. Survey data from tug fleets and workboats show engines with logbooks stretching past 10,000, 15,000, sometimes over 20,000 hours, still pushing barges through the intracoastal or hauling pilots out to sea. Mechanics know the names: Perkins, Mitsubishi, Cummins, Detroit. These blocks rack up decades of service, often with nothing more than routine oil changes and the occasional top-end refresh. A marine surveyor will tell you straight. A well-maintained mechanical diesel, run at steady load, can outlast the hull it was bolted into. That is not just shop talk. It is a fact confirmed by logbooks and insurance surveys. The engines that hit these marks are not babied. They are run hard, sometimes around the clock, in salt water, heat, and filth. Yet they keep going because they were built to be rebuilt. No proprietary electronics, no software keys, just iron and patience. This is the culture that shaped expectations for marine power. The old-timers did not expect to replace an engine every decade. They expected to hand it down. Manuals from the era read like blueprints for independence. Clearances you could set with a feeler gauge, pumps you could rebuild on the dock, injectors you could clean with a toothbrush. The real benchmark was not just hours. It was the ability to keep moving, no matter the conditions, with nothing but a toolbox and a little ingenuity. Today, that 20,000-hour mark is not just a number. It is the line in the sand. Every new engine, every innovation gets measured against it. And for anyone who has ever limped home on a tired block that just would not quit, it is the only standard that matters. In 1996, the first wave of federal emissions rules landed on the marine diesel world. This was Tier 1, a baseline, not a revolution. Engines above 50 horsepower had to cut nitrogen oxides and particulates, but the numbers were gentle enough that mechanical injection survived. By 2001, Tier 2 forced a sharper cut. Manufacturers tweaked timing, experimented with exhaust gas recirculation, and squeezed a little more precision out of old-school pumps. But as the calendar rolled forward, the screws kept tightening. Tier 3 arrived in 2008, targeting engines from 25 to 750 horsepower. Now the rules demanded not just lower emissions at full throttle, but cleaner exhaust under every operating condition, idle, acceleration, and load changes. Mechanical systems could not keep up. Electronic control units began to appear, managing injection timing and monitoring sensors. The real earthquake hit with Tier 4. Starting in 2014 for most categories, Tier 4 required a 90% reduction in nitrogen oxides and particulates compared to engines before the regulations. The only way to get there was with common rail direct injection, fuel pressures 10 times higher than before, digital control units in charge of every squirt of diesel, and after-treatment systems like diesel particulate filters and selective catalytic reduction. For the first time, the EPA certified engines for a useful life, typically 10,000 hours for commercial models and far less for recreational. The old iron giants were now obsolete by law. Every original equipment manufacturer, including Yanmar, Volvo Penta, and Cummins, had to redesign from the crankshaft out just to stay in business. The result is clear on any timeline. As each tier arrived, the margin for error shrank, and the engines themselves became less forgiving, more complex, and locked to a regulatory clock. The moment Tier 4 became law, every marine engine builder faced a new reality. Compliance was not optional, and the old tricks would not cut it. To meet the latest limits on nitrogen oxides and particulate matter, manufacturers had to add after-treatment systems taken straight from the truck world. This is not a minor change, it is a structural shift in how engines are designed and certified. A diesel particulate filter is a ceramic honeycomb that traps soot, forcing exhaust to burn cleaner. That cleaner exhaust requires regular regeneration cycles and creates a constant risk of clogging if the engine idles too long or burns dirty fuel. Selective catalytic reduction injects urea-based fluid into the exhaust to chemically break down nitrogen oxides. Miss a refill or get a contaminated batch, and the system locks you out with a dashboard warning and a countdown to limp mode. This is failure by software and chemistry, not just mechanical wear. For boat owners, after-treatment hardware means more than new parts. It adds thousands of dollars to the sticker price, and it can double the complexity of routine maintenance. The diesel particulate filter alone can cost over $3,000 to replace. SCR systems require their own sensors, pumps, and heated lines to keep the urea from crystallizing in cold weather. Every major manufacturer, Yanmar, Volvo Penta, and Cummins, had to pass these costs on because a non-compliant engine can mean millions in EPA fines. The result is a heavier, more crowded engine room built around a legal target, not around a lifetime of service. The law did not just change the exhaust, it changed the DNA of the marine diesel. Inside a modern marine diesel, the real violence happens where no one can see it. Fuel is forced through the common rail at pressures that routinely top 30,000 pounds per square inch, 10 times what the old mechanical pumps ever saw. At this scale, diesel is not just a liquid, it behaves more like a cutting fluid, slicing through metal one molecule at a time. Injector tips, once simple hardened steel parts, now face a barrage of microjets and shockwaves. Cavitation is the invisible enemy. When pressure drops even for a split second, maybe from air in the line or a low tank, tiny vapor bubbles form and then collapse with explosive force. Each implosion eats away at the metal, leaving pits and scars that grow with every hour of operation. Even the best alloys, case-hardened to survive decades, cannot win against this kind of abuse for long. It is not just the injectors under siege. The high-pressure pump, the rails, the lines, every surface that sees those forces is at risk. A stray particle of rust or a speck of silica, invisible to the naked eye, can slip past a filter and become a wrecking ball. At 30,000 pound per square inch, a 4-micron grain of grit is all it takes to carve a groove in a plunger or jam a needle valve. The tolerances are so tight, measured in microns, not thousandths of an inch, that even a drop of water or a hint of diesel bug can start a chain reaction. One contaminated tank can destroy a $5,000 injector set in a single afternoon. Engineers have tried to fight back with coatings and harder materials, diamond-like carbon, ceramics, exotic alloys, but the physics are relentless. Every increase in pressure doubles the rate of erosion. Injector life, once measured in decades, now falls by half or more. Surface hardening cracks, coatings flake, and the debris they shed only accelerates the wear. Under the microscope, a modern injector after a few thousand hours looks like it has been sandblasted. The damage is measured in microns, but the cost is measured in thousands. This is the reality of ultra-high pressure fuel delivery. The cleaner the engine runs, the faster its own heart wears out. A single contaminated tank can turn a modern common rail diesel into a financial disaster. Ultra-high pressure fuel systems, running at 30,000 pounds per square inch, depend on fuel so clean it borders on laboratory grade. But marinas are not laboratories. Water, rust, or a handful of 4-micron grit from a dirty dockside tank can slip past even the best filters. When that happens, the damage is swift and merciless. Injectors seize or erode, pumps score themselves to scrap, and the debris ricochets through the rail, taking out every precision part in its path. The invoice for this lesson is always the same: $5,000 minimum for a full set of injectors and a high-pressure pump. That is, if you catch it early. If debris spreads, the total climbs. New rails, new lines, sometimes a new ECU. If metal shavings, shorter sensor. Mechanics see it often enough that some keep pre-printed forms for the job. The owner's face is always the same too. Shock, then anger, then the slow realization that the warranty will not help. Contamination is not covered. It is called customer-induced failure. The root cause traces back to the fuel itself. Ultra-low sulfur diesel mandated since 2006 has far less lubricity than the old high-sulfur blends. The lubricating layer that once protected moving parts is gone. At 30,000 pounds per square inch, the tiniest drop in lubricity accelerates wear. Add water, maybe from condensation in a half-empty tank, and you get corrosion on top of abrasion. Add diesel bug, the microbial slime that thrives in warm, wet fuel, and you get clogging and acid etching. Every one of these is a death sentence for a modern injector. Owners used to think of fuel as an afterthought. Now it is a liability. The price of precision is that a single mistake, one bad fill-up, can wipe out a season's cruising budget. And the system is so sensitive that even the best maintenance cannot guarantee immunity. The shop invoice, stamped with the cost of fragility, is the new reality for anyone running a Tier 4 engine. The next weak link sits just downstream, the electronics waiting for their turn to fail. 1,000 miles from shore, the engine room is a world of its own. The wind howls, rain hammers the deck, and salt spray finds every crack. Then, without warning, the engine coughs once and falls silent. A red light blinks on the panel, just one. The alarm cuts through the roar, shrill and insistent. The captain checks the gauges, oil pressure, coolant, voltage, all normal. But the engine refuses to answer. The screen flashes a code, cryptic and meaningless without the right manual. The culprit is a $20 sensor, hidden deep in the wiring, its signal lost to corrosion or a stray drop of water. The engine's digital brain receives the error and reacts exactly as programmed. It locks itself down to protect from imagined damage. Power drops to a crawl. 1,000 revolutions per minute, barely enough to hold course, not enough to outrun the weather. The boat lurches as the prop slows. Waves build. The old rules, find the leak, swap a filter, bleed the lines, do not apply. There is nothing mechanical to fix, no bypass, no override. The beeping does not stop. The engine is running, but the boat is as good as dead in the water. Out here, a failed sensor is the difference between making port and calling for rescue. The engine is safe, the crew is not. The modern marine engine doesn't just run on fuel and air, it runs on code. Every critical function, from injection timing to turbo boost, passes through a digital gatekeeper. But that gate is not yours to open. If a sensor glitches or a parameter drifts out of range, the engine's brain locks you out. The only way back in is with a proprietary diagnostic tool, a laptop loaded with software that the manufacturer guards like a state secret. No password, no fix. The so-called dealership dongle isn't just a tool, it's a leash. Without it, you're stranded, watching a blinking code on the dash while the engine refuses to cooperate. A chief engineer used to be king of the engine room. Today, he's just another user, dependent on a remote technician who might be 3 time zones away. The sense of control, the old confidence that you could solve anything with a wrench and some grit, is gone. Now even the smallest repair can spiral into a logistical nightmare. You might need to tow the boat, wait for a certified tech, or pay for a software unlock just to clear a false alarm. The engine is still there, all iron and steel, but you're locked out by a line of code. The price of compliance isn't just money, it's the loss of autonomy. When you need the engine most, you're at the mercy of a laptop you don't own and a password you will never have. At sea today, reliability is a matter of survival. But the tools we trust are now built for compliance, not endurance. When 20,000-hour engines become rare, self-reliance fades with them. As regulations tighten and designs grow fragile, the true cost is not just mechanical, it is the erosion of confidence offshore. In the end, clean air means little if you cannot make it home. Share your thoughts below.